Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. Alright folks, buckle up because we need to talk about what's really happening in Toronto right now, and trust me, this is way juicier than what the mainstream sports media is telling you. The Toronto Blue Jays are on the absolute edge of glory, standing at a crossroads that could either lead them to championship heaven or leave them drowning in the bitter tears of what could have been. And the answer to their prayers might just be hiding in the most unexpected place, a 36-year-old left-handed reliever that nobody's really talking about. Let's rewind for a second because you need to understand the stakes here. The Blue Jays made it to Game 7 of the World Series. Game 7. Do you know what that means? That means they were literally one game, one incredible performance, one clutch moment away from hoisting that commissioner's trophy. But instead, they watched it slip through their fingers like sand on a beach. That kind of loss doesn't just sting, it burns. It haunts you. It wakes you up at 3 in the morning in a cold sweat. And that's exactly the energy Toronto is carrying into the 2026 season. This isn't about hope anymore, folks. This is about obsession. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The Blue Jays didn't sit around moping during the off-season. Oh no, they went out and made moves. Big moves. Loud moves. They brought in Dylan Cease, a legitimate ace who can dominate on the mound. They signed Kazuma Okamoto, adding serious power to their lineup. These are the kinds of splashes that tell the entire league, we're not playing around anymore. We're here to win, and we're here to win now. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The one guy they really wanted, the crown jewel of their off-season shopping list, Kyle Tucker, he slipped away. And where did he go? To the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yes, the same Dodgers who ripped the championship out of Toronto's hands. If that doesn't add fuel to the fire, I don't know what does. But let me tell you something that the casual fan might miss, something that keeps general managers up at night and costs teams championships. It's not always the superstars that lose you a World Series. Sometimes it's the guy you barely remember, the seventh-inning reliever who couldn't get that one crucial out, the matchup specialist who froze when the moment got too big. Championships aren't won by 5 tool players alone. They're won in the margins, in the details, in those seemingly boring roster decisions that nobody notices until it's too late. So let's talk about Toronto's bullpen for a minute, specifically their left-handed relievers. They've got Brendan Little, they've got Mason Fluharty, they've got Eric Lauer as a swingman. Solid names, sure, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Behind those guys, there's a whole lot of question marks. There's potential, absolutely. There are arms that throw hard and have good stuff. But you know what they don't have? Experience in the pressure cooker of October baseball. They don't have that battle-tested veteran who's been in the trenches when everything's on the line and the whole world is watching. Enter Danny Coulombe. Now I know what you're thinking. Who the heck is Danny Coulombe? He's not going to sell jerseys. He's not going to trend on Twitter. Nobody's making highlight reels of his pitches. But stay with me here because this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Danny Coulombe is 36 years old, and over his entire career, he's held left-handed hitters to a measly 233 batting average with a .596 OPS. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Over his entire career. This isn't some small sample size fluke. This is who he is. And for a team that just lost the World Series, that kind of consistency is pure gold. Last season, splitting time between the Minnesota Twins and the Texas Rangers, Coulombe appeared in 55 games. His numbers? Absolutely ridiculous. A 2-1 record with an ERA of 2.30. His WHIP was 1.16. His strikeout-to-walk ratio was 2.4 to 1. He notched 2 saves and 9 holds, and here's the kicker, 0 blown saves. Not one. For a reliever, that's basically the equivalent of being invisible in the best possible way. He came in, did his job, got the outs, and disappeared back into the bullpen without any drama. Now let me hit you with the real question that separates championship teams from pretenders. When you're in Game 6 of the World Series and the opposing manager stacks his lineup with left-handed hitters to exploit your bullpen, do you really trust a bunch of young arms without a proven veteran lefty to bail you out? Because that's the scenario that keeps Ross Atkins and the entire Blue Jays front office staring at the ceiling at night. That's the nightmare scenario that costs you everything. Analyst Edward from JAYS Journal recently suggested Toronto as the perfect landing spot for Coulombe, and his reasoning was absolutely spot on. This isn't about glamour or making a splash. It's about filling a very specific structural need. The Blue Jays need reliable left-handed depth. They need someone who can neutralize dangerous left-handed hitters without creating more problems. They need stability, and in October baseball, stability is worth its weight in World Series rings. Now let's be completely honest here, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Danny Coulombe is going to single-handedly win Toronto a championship. He's not going to close games. He's not going to be your ace. But here's what he does do, and this is crucial. He changes decisions. He gives manager John Schneider more options in the 7th inning. He provides protection for specific matchups. He prevents you from having to expose a young, inexperienced arm in a high-leverage situation before they are ready. And over the course of 162 games, plus hopefully a deep playoff run, all of those little decisions add up to something massive. There's also something else that doesn't show up in the box score but matters just as much, if not more. A clubhouse that just experienced the agony of losing a World Series by the slimmest of margins needs veteran voices. They need guys who've been through the grinder, who've felt the pressure, who've experienced both success and failure at the highest level. Bullpen veterans carry wisdom that can't be taught. They can sense when a game is starting to slip away before it becomes obvious. They can calm down a young reliever who's losing his composure. That kind of presence changes the entire dynamic of a team. But let me flip this around for a second, because we need to look at both sides. What happens if Toronto doesn't make this move? What if they look at their current roster and say, we're good enough as is? The honest answer is they might be, but they'd be taking an unnecessary gamble. Dylan Cease didn't sign with Toronto to help develop young talent. Kazuma Okamoto didn't cross the ocean to be part of a rebuilding project. These guys came to win now. And when your window is wide open like Toronto's is, ignoring marginal improvements is the same as betting that nothing will go wrong. And let me tell you something about October baseball, it always collects on those bets. What Danny Coulombe represents isn't just another arm in the bullpen. His insurance. His protection against unfavorable matchups, against your starter having a bad night, against having to make rush decisions in critical moments. You see this pattern all the time in professional sports. NFL teams that are in win-now mode constantly add quiet veterans to complete their rosters. Not to sell merchandise, not to make headlines, but to convert third downs and make the small plays that lead to Super Bowl championships. The Blue Jays are at that exact stage right now. And the fans, they feel it. If you spend any time on Blue Jays forums, on social media, listening to local podcasts, you'll notice the conversation has completely shifted. People aren't asking who are we as a team anymore. They're asking what's missing? What do we need to get over the hump? And when that question changes, everything changes. The pressure intensifies. The expectations skyrocket. Every roster decision gets put under a microscope. This is where Danny Coulombe becomes fascinating as a potential addition. Some fans think it's not enough. Some think it's too late. But almost nobody thinks it's useless. And that consensus actually tells you everything you need to know. Let's break down what Toronto would gain here. They'd get an experienced left-hander with solid numbers and no recent history of collapse. They'd gain tactical flexibility and veteran presence in a bullpen that desperately needs it. And what's the risk? Practically nothing. We're not talking about some massive contract that would handcuff the organization. We're not talking about promises of a role bigger than what is proven he can handle. We're talking about fit, and championship teams absolutely live and die on well-made fits. Spring training is approaching fast. The final off-season moves are happening right now. And the entire league is watching Toronto like hawks, because after they came within one game of a championship, nobody's sleeping on the Blue Jays anymore. They're not some cute underdog story. They're a legitimate threat, and threats cannot afford to have obvious holes in their armor. Danny Coulombe doesn't fix everything, but he fixes something very specific. And sometimes that surgical precision is exactly what a team on the verge of greatness needs. So here's my final question for you, and I really want you to think about this. Would you rather lose in October knowing you did absolutely everything within your power, or would you rather lose and spend the entire offseason wondering if one simple adjustment could have changed everything? Because that's the decision that separates teams who almost win from teams who actually raise the trophy. Whether Toronto pulls the trigger on this move remains to be seen. There are other options out there. Other names will surface as spring training gets closer. But don't be shocked if the Danny Coulombe rumor keeps popping up because it makes too much sense to ignore, and in baseball, moves that make sense tend to win out over flashy headlines. The 2026 season is about to begin, and the Blue Jays are carrying the weight of unfinished business on their shoulders. Every decision matters now. Every addition could be the difference between glory and heartbreak. And somewhere in the middle of all the big names and blockbuster trades, a 36-year-old left-handed reliever might just be the piece that completes the puzzle. If this video got you thinking about the Blue Jays' championship chances, or if you have thoughts on whether veteran depth pieces like Danny Coulombe can actually move the needle for contending teams, smash that like button and drop your hottest takes in the comments below. Should Toronto go all in on proven veterans or trust their young arms? I want to hear what you think. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our breaking baseball analysis. The road to the World Series is going to be wild, and you definitely want to be here for every twist and turn. Let's